The scream hit the wall before the plate did. That was the sentence that stayed in my head after I read a case story shared by a child psychologist from a university hospital. The scream wasn't loud because of danger, it was just a parent shouting. You know, one of those everyday shouts, the kind we all think disappears into the air. But in that story, something else was listening. Not the ears, but the stomach. The child bent over hours later, holding his tummy, confused, scared, saying, "It hurts, but I don't know why." Stay with me because what I read next shocked me, and science actually backs it. I'm not a doctor like I always say, I'm just Simi, your health accountability body. I read things a lot, and what I read about children's stomachs and shouting made me sit up. And I decided to bring it to you because you need to learn from this. You really need to learn from this. Here's the shocking part that made me stop scrolling when I first saw it. I read research findings from Harvard Medical School and the University of California that says the gut has its own nervous system. Real nerves, almost as many as the cat's brain. Scientists even call it the second brain. That means your child's stomach doesn't just digest food, it does many other things. This will really shock you. It listens, it feels, it also reacts to emotions. Like, this is really shocking. We need to actually always read a lot because how does your stomach listen to emotions? The stomach, where your food that takes in your food and digests them, listening to your emotions. Just stay with me, then you will understand better. Now, let me explain this like I'm talking to my 8-year-old friend. I'm going to come down to the level of an 8-year-old child so that everyone watching this can pick every good point from this. Now, inside your belly, there's a tiny messenger. They talk to your brain all day, not just one. Let me call them messengers. When you're happy, calm messages go down. When you're scared, angry, or shouted at, panic messages go down. Now, let's imagine being small. You're small, your world is loud. You don't understand why voices rise. You know, children, when you shout at them a lot of times, maybe you're even trying to correct them so they can be on the right path, do the right things. But they really don't understand yet because they are still small. They really don't understand yet that, oh, the reason daddy is shouting at me is because he wants me to turn out good. The reason mommy is shouting at me is because she wants me to turn out good. They don't really know that yet. All they know is daddy is shouting at me. Mommy is shouting at me. That's all they know. Oh, my nanny is yelling at me. That is all they know. So, like I said, imagine being small, your world is loud, you don't understand why voices rise. When they rise, you just feel bad. So, because of this, you don't feel safe yet. So, your stomach tightens. Each time you hear the shouts, the scream, the yelling, your stomach tightens. So, I read a study from the University of Leuven that found stress in children increases stomach acid production. And this acid is meant to break food, but too much acid for too long starts hurting the stomach wall. And that's where ulcers begin. It doesn't begin suddenly or loudly, but it begins quietly, little shouts, little yelling, little screams. This acid keeps increasing. It keeps increasing. It keeps increasing till it increases to the level where it gets too much for the stomach wall and it begins to hurt it. So now back to the story. The child I was talking about wasn't abused. No hitting, no extreme trauma, just constant shouting. Parents, like I'm an African and we Africans, we shout a lot because a lot of times we don't want to hit. Sometimes even when we hit, we still shout because we're trying to correct the child. That's our belief. If you don't shout, if you don't hit sometimes, they don't pick the correction. So you do homework time shouting, morning rush shouting, spill the water shouting, shout at every little mistake a child does. The psychologist wrote that the child's body stayed in alert mode for hours every day because of this. Science calls this chronic stress. This word is not actually so big, but the meaning is simple. The body never relaxes. The body is always stressed, and when the body is always stressed, the stomach is tightened. And when the body doesn't relax, the gut suffers first. It's not even your body that suffers it first, it's not the body of the child, but your gut, your stomach. I read research from Johns Hopkins that shows stress hormones like cortisol can weaken the stomach's protective lining. That lining is like a shield. When it weakens, acid can burn through. That burn, that is what we call ulcer. And here's something really talked about. A lot of people don't talk about this, not even doctors. At least I don't often hear it. I read findings published in a pediatric gastroenterology journal that says emotional stress doesn't just worsen ulcers, it can help start them. It's not as if, oh, you already have ulcers, so when you're emotionally stressed, the ulcer gets worse. But what this research, what this finding says is, it can even start it. It can trigger it. It can be the beginning of it, even if the child doesn't have it before. So, especially in children who already have sensitive stomachs. That means shouting doesn't cause ulcers alone, but it opens the door to ulcer. Now, let me add something chaotic to this story, something you need to know. The child started missing school not because of fever, not because of flu, but because of tummy aches. Doctors now found that no infection at first. The parents were confused. Then the doctor asked a strange question. What is the emotional temperature at home? Imagine a doctor asking you this when you say you complain of your child having stomach of upset. If you haven't heard this before, you're going to simply ask the doctor, what does my child's stomach upset, stomach ache have to do with the temperature at home? What does he have to do? He or she feeds well, the hygiene is right. So, what's up with the temperature at home? But the truth is, not diet, not sweets, not screen time. Tone, your voice, the volume. I will come again. Your tone, your voice, and the volume. They all contribute to the health of your child's gut. And here's the second problem science links to this that parents don't expect. I read a large study from the American Academy of Pediatrics that found children exposed to high verbal stress have higher risk of functional stomach disorders. I know everything I'm saying right now is going to shock a lot of people. It shocked me as well when I read it. It did shock me because I had to go on these elaborate findings, reading different findings, putting them together before I could actually agree to this conclusion. This means stomach pain without a clear physical cause. The stomach hurts because the nerves are overwhelmed. So aside from ulcers, shouting has been linked to frequent stomach aches, poor appetite, feeling nauseous, even constipation or diarrhea is triggered by stress. Again, no screaming warning signs, just small complaints which we usually brush off. Now, pause with me for a second. Think of the last time you raised your voice. I'm not judging, I'm just trying to notice. Because science doesn't judge, it observes. What science observes is that a child's stomach reacts faster than their words. Now, the story turns. The parents didn't stop shouting overnight. They are human. It's not easy to just stop, especially when it's your parenting pattern. But they changed one thing. They changed how they recovered after shouting. This also does a lot to in healing your child. I read this from a child development researcher at the University of Oxford. Repair matters more than perfection. You see, when a parent softens their voice after shouting, they explain calmly, they reconnect. The child's stress hormone drop faster. That drop, you see, protects the gut. The stomach hears calm like medicine, not pills. It hears calm. I also read research from UCLA showing that warm tones and reassurance activate the vagus nerve. That nerve is a nerve that connects the brain to the gut. When it's active, digestion improves and inflammation reduces. And these are the things that actually trigger ulcers most times. Inflammation is the slow fire behind ulcers. A lot of people already know that. Whatever I'm saying here about stress and ulcer might be new, but inflammation causing ulcer isn't new to a lot of parents. So now, let's talk about what science-backed prevention looks like without diagnosis or prescriptions. It looks really small. You see, lowering your voice even when angry, pausing before shouting, explaining instead of exploding, creating calm moments after chaos. Sometimes we may not be able to avoid this chaos because we are human, but you need to learn to create calm moments after chaos because it helps the healing faster than it should. This is not because of feelings alone, because biology responds, because the stomach listens. And here is a rare finding that made me sit quietly. I read a long term study from Germany that followed children into adulthood, and it found that early life stress affected gut health decades later. That means what happens now echoes, it echoes deep into the future. This is not to scare you, but this is to empower you. Your voice is powerful. It can tighten a stomach or relax it. So you have to choose what you want your voice to do to your kids. Ulcers don't always start with the bad food. Sometimes they start with loud rooms. Now, if this story stayed with you, good. That means awareness just walked in. Once again, I'm Simi. I'm not a doctor. I just share what I read. And what I read says this. It says, sometimes the most quiet medicine in a child's life is a softer voice. So, even when you're angry, I want you to make a decision today to learn to lower your voice to improve your child's gut health.